Hi, I'm Rob, and in this Gems of War video I'm going to take a look in the Soulforge and give you my opinion on what is good and bad in there this week. What's worth crafting and what's worth avoiding. Anyway, the three fish are in a tank. One asks the others, how do you drive this thing? Yeah. Ooh, they're terrible. Anyway, the weekly event troop is the Spirit of Rage. Let's take a look at this. 300 glory for this. Always worth getting these to mythic level if you can. It gives you another troop which you can get to level 20, and that's going to aid your power level kingdoms in the long run. So certainly do that if you can. But let's take a look at it. Explodes 3 gems and 2 more for every enraged ally. Then enrage a random ally. The traits are become enraged when an enemy dies. That is going to help its spell. Gain 1 attack when an enemy casts a spell, and gain a bonus red mana from red gem matches. So yeah, the first and third traits both pretty handy, and this can actually generate quite a lot of mana. Even though the initial spell is only 3 gems exploded, if you're in a team like something in Slayer class or have a troop which enrages all allies, then that is going to be a lot of explosions and potentially a board wipe unless you're really unlucky in the way that the placement of the gems that the spell decides to explode, because it will be random gems. But yeah, not too bad at all, and that can be a very good mana generator. 12 mana cost is a little bit high, but I'm going to give that a fairly solid 7 out of 10. I kind of wanted to give it somewhere between 6 and 7, but I don't like giving halves, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say 7. Pretty decent. Right. Whilst you're here, always worth grabbing the Spoils of War. Get these all the way up to quantity 10 if you can. That's the maximum you're allowed every single week. 1800 glory, gives you event keys, gives you more gold and souls and more treasure maps you don't want. But hey ho, you can't have everything. Alright, onto the Soulforge itself. Take a look at the weapons first. Aegis of Urskaya. Remove all brown gems with no effect. Deal magic-based damage to an enemy boosted by the gems removed. And if the enemy is from Urskaya, or if the battle is in Urskaya, deal double damage. So this is basically the anti-Urskaya weapon, if you like. This is the sort of weapon which is good if you're fighting Urskaya troops or are in Urskaya and you want to restrict what they can do. The fact it removes all brown gems is handy, because that is the colour which Urskaya troops are going to want to use the most. It obviously doesn't use brown itself, because that would be counterproductive, but in an ideal world your team would not use brown either. So if your team fulfills those requirements, it can certainly have its place, but it is fairly situational and therefore not absolutely essential. Not going to go over all the weapons that are here all the time. These are mentioned in other Soulforge videos. Then we have the Stone Sword. Deal again magic based damage to the first enemy and deal triple damage if they use blue mana. So that's more collectible than anything. That is quite restrictive if you think about it. It's not too bad if you can target someone with that, because you're not going to have blue enemies everywhere most of the time. But you have to have that blue enemy in the first place, because you always are going to attack the first enemy with this. Obviously it's okay if you're against an all blue team, but that is not always going to be the case. So mostly collectible for that one. Next up we have Razor Claw. Deals magic based damage to an enemy boosted by Urskaya allies, then create a mix of 6 green and brown gems for each Urskaya ally. So this uses red and yellow, but creates green and brown. So it's not going to generate any mana for itself unless you get unlucky with some random drops, but you do need to make sure that the rest of your team does contain at least 1 or 2 troops which use green and brown. Otherwise you're creating those colours for nothing, and it is not a lot of point in that. Axe of the North. Very similar. Deals again a damage to an enemy, but this boosted by Urska allies. Then creates a mix of 6 green and brown for each Urska ally. Uses red and blue. So again, Same deal as before. You need the other members of your team, at least a couple of them I would say, that use green and or brown to benefit from this weapon. So fairly situational, but can be really effective if you fulfill those requirements. Doomed Baton. Not the best. Create 4 purple gems plus 1 gem per tempering level. If you get this thing leveled right up, that will be a lot more purple gems, and therefore it can be really effective on mana gen. But it's the rest of the spell. Give armor to all brown allies, and if the enemy has a doom, eliminate all armor from a random enemy. So many things that could go sort of not great about this weapon. First of all, it gives armor to all brown allies, so you're going to need an all brown team to benefit from that to the maximum. And then if the enemy has a doom, so if they don't, this part becomes irrelevant. Eliminate all armor from a random enemy who could already be someone you've taken the armor away from. So not the best doomed weapon by a long shot, and I personally would not bother crafting that one. There are better ones that are going to come at a later date. We get new weapons every single week. Don't go buying things with your diamonds just because it says doomed at the front. Just because it says doomed at the front doesn't always mean to say it's great, because it's not. And what else we got? Oh, that is it. These are all the specialist ones related to the dragons. Right, now onto the troops. Start at the bottom and work our way up on the troops. Vernalis is first up. Gives magic-based attack to the first 2 allies, give magic-based life to the 2 weakest, and give 10 magic to the 2 strongest allies. Not too keen on the spell on this. Ulor is a similar troop, which has an opposite effect. It actually restricts what the enemy can do, and I actually massively prefer that. This is okay, it's just not outstanding. Quite often that amount of life you give to the 2 weakest allies, if they're severely weakened, is not going to save them. Yeah, it's just okay, but not spectacular. One of the best things about him actually is that 3rd trait, entangle and fairy fire a random enemy when matching green gems, simply by matching green, which you will be doing with him. It's one of his main colours you want to collect when using Vernalis. You are going to entangle and fairy fire a random enemy when matching green gems. So that part is good, but overall he's a little bit if you know what is, you should do. Kind of self-explanatory. What am I talking about? Anyway, King Bloodwood deals heavy splash damage based on your magic to an enemy, boosted by entangled and bleeding enemies. Steal 10 life from all enemies. So heavy splash damage. If you use someone like Vernalis to get the entangle going first, then obviously this is going to increase the amount of damage someone like this does, because it's boosted by that. And then still 10 life. So it's okay, again, if not spectacular, but again it does have a couple of good traits. Reduce damage from skulls by 33%, and entangle and inflict bleed on a random enemy when matching 4 or more gems. So you do have to get 4 or more gems to get those effects. It's not as easy as getting the entangle with Vernalis, but yeah, okay again, if not spectacular. Same goes for your Tian Yi. Deals heavy splash damage to an enemy, so you're going to want to target the 2nd or 3rd troops down if you can, because splash damage affects the enemy you hit and the enemies either side. Deal a double damage if my attack is greater, which you are going to want to do, because otherwise that damage is not that spectacular, especially for a mythic. And then it does have a summon as well, which is summon 1 to 3 monkey disciples. The traits are not too bad. Steal 2 magic from the first enemy at the start of my turn is good, but it's only really effective in a longer type game. If you are after a quick game where it's going to be over in, you know, like 6, 7, 8 rounds or whatever, hopefully, or less, then that 3rd trait is not going to be enough to actually make too much of a difference to that magic or the damage that he does. But in a longer type game, if you don't mind those, then that can be actually effective, and the summon could obviously be a bit of a game changer sometimes. Always could have a summon, but overall, he's just alright. Who else have we got? Plague! Blimey. Eliminate magic-based points off a random skill from all enemies, poison and disease them. That is it. Yep, it's not great for me. If that takes it off life or something, that's not going to be that much damage. If it takes it off attack, it's only going to benefit, obviously affect the troop that's at the front or the ones behind it. It's not going to affect them immediately. And poison and disease, not a big deal. And enemies lose 3 skill points on 4 or 5 gem matches. Is okay. Impervious is okay. Deal double skull damage versus diseased enemies is okay, but without any skull reduction himself, then he's going to die quite quick at the top anyway. So all in all, not great. So yeah, all in all, these mythics, nothing spectacular there this week in any way, shape or form. So let's take a quick look over the legendaries. I do usually say don't bother crafting a legendary, because your gems, or diamonds rather, are much better held on to for those hard to get mythics. But we do have a slight exception to the rule here, and that is Yao Guai. If you don't have him already, I would absolutely definitely craft him from the Soulforge. He's basically better than any of the mythics I just mentioned, put it that way. He's absolutely superb. Even though he's a legendary, it doesn't always mean that they're worse than a mythic, if you know what I mean. Mythic is almost related to how hard they are to obtain in the game. And even though the mana cost should be relative to how good the spell is, it doesn't always seem to be the case, not straight away either. I get it that some mythics can improve when other troops come out which are going to complement their spell, but Yao Guai is just good straight off the bat. End of. Deal a decent amount of damage to the first 2 enemies boosted by his life. So the higher his life, the more damage that is going to be. As well as that, he steals 4 magic from both of those enemies, then transforms all purple gems to red. So you can see before you cast that if you're going to get an extra turn, and basically that can charge him up again because he uses red, and do it again. That is usually going to just kill one or not both of those enemies outright. He's an absolute beast. And it gets worse. Steal, or better, I mean, as in gets worse for the enemy. Steal 3 life from the first enemy when matching red gems. That is going to obviously steal that life, which weakens them, gives it to you, but makes his spell stronger because it's boosted by his life. He's also immune to mana burn, mana drain, and mana steal, and also reflects 25% of skull damage. He's awesome. Just get him right now if you don't have him. End of. Midia. It does damage to all, so that is quite nice. That's a good way of hitting those troops which are stealthy and think they're being sneaky and can't be hit. Damage to all does hit those enemies, so that's always good for that. And if you're in a team which uses demons and mystics, then very good indeed. Enchants all ally demons and barriers all mystics. All mystics gain 1 magic on 4 or 5 gem matches is a handy trait. As is the middle one, which can summon a ancient horror when she dies, or if she dies. Emperor Corvash. I remember being an early player in this game, and this guy was so flippin' annoying. It was like, bloody Corvash, get out of it. It's so annoying. Dealt true damage to me, being annoying. Done damage to those first 2 enemies, stun them and drain their mana. It was the draining of the mana which I found really irritating about this guy. Really, really good. Also stuns a random enemy on 4 or 5 gem matches. Reduced damage from skulls as well by 25%, and gain 3 to all skills if in first position. It means he's actually pretty decent. You still do see him from time to time in teams, just not as relevant as he used to be due to other troops coming along which do a similar if better job. But yeah, in a true damage team, still very handy indeed. Goblin King. Remove all gems of a chosen colour with no benefit. If you remove the correct ones and you look at the board properly, you can still maybe obtain an extra turn out of that. Gains 8 life. That is a set amount as well. That's not boosted by your level or magic. Boosted by the gems removed, and summon a goblin. And gets an extra turn. So good in some teams. And gain 20 life if in last position is fairly handy too. But bizarrely, the best troop out of the ones I mentioned there is not a mythic, it is actually a Yao Guai. But I do the mythic of the week. And Plague, definitely not you. Tian Yi. None of them deserve it. Sod it, I'm going to go against the grain here. I don't care. It's my rules, my video. I'm going to say my mythic of the week is not actually a mythic because it is Yao Guai. He is easily the best troop out of the ones I mentioned. Yao Guai is the best troop here in the Soulforge this week. Go get Yao Guai. He's absolutely amazing. I don't care that he's not a mythic. He basically is. So get him anyway. Get Yao Guai. Do you get it? Get Yao Guai. Stop what you're doing after the end of this video and get Yao Guai. Do you see? Right. There's a video. There's the Soulforge review. I'll be doing my World Event team later on. That will be appearing a couple of hours after this one. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, bash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.